Good morning, VC. Jeff here with you. Finally making the contest video that I've long promised to my new buddy, Eric Weinbender. For those of you who may not have heard of his channel or him, I will put a link down below to it. I highly recommend you go over there and check it out. And hopefully you like what you see and you'd hit the subscribe button. Among the newer channels that have taken hold in the VC recently, Eric has done a really good job of ingratiating himself into the VC. He's got big personality. You know, he likes, besides great taste in music, you know, he likes cigars, he likes to cook, he's a chef. Which I find admirable because I'm no chef, but I do all the cooking in this house, and I've got a pretty decent repertoire of things, but I'm basically just a recipe follower. I'm not an actual cook, but I do okay. And, you know, he likes to have a little sip of whiskey every now and then, just like me. And funny, I usually find myself chuckling at his videos more often than not, whether he's doing it solo or with one of his friends, which is usually interesting. And he busts my balls in the comments of videos. So, dude, it's like we're brothers already. So, yeah, I enjoy Eric's videos. And just like with several other people in the VC, I'm sure if we lived closer together and we actually met face-to-face, we'd probably get along great. So, yeah, he's got a contest going right now for achieving the 100. I guess it was for 111 subscribers because he likes nice, round, neat numbers, which I do too. And the theme is very loose, very vague, and pretty wide open. But it has to deal with movie soundtracks or something relating to them. Whether it be DVDs or VHS tapes or even comic books or magazines or basically any form of media. So I thought about this one, and what I did was I actually pulled every soundtrack that I have. I think I pulled them all. I don't think I missed any. From my collection. And I was looking through them trying to find a theme. And I couldn't. The closest I came was I happened to have like 4 soundtracks that came out in 1984, but I didn't have a 5th one. And then I thought, ooh, I'll just do top 4 of 84, you know, kind of like the whole synchronicity of the numbers. And I'm like, nah, that's kind of cheap. I don't want to do that to you, dude. I don't want to, you know, shortchange a contest entry. You're my bud. So it turns out I have 17 different soundtracks. So, well, actually, I'm looking at the thing. I forgot Song Remains the Same, because that's a movie too. Darn it! You guys seen me show that one before, right? Well, all right, we'll just pretend that I showed it. I went through this thing like 3 or 4 times, and I swear every time I found another one that I'd missed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show everything. Because as much as I wanted to try to find a certain sort of theme, I just couldn't. And I wanted to do, I don't know what I wanted to do. So I'm just going to pull these. I've got a big stack right here. Many of these you've seen before. Some, I don't know if there's some that I haven't shown, because I basically show everything. I think you guys have seen just about my entire collection, with a few exceptions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with those 4 from '84. This was actually a Record Store Day record from last year. This was the reissue of the Eurythmics soundtrack to the movie 1984, which came out in '84, starring John Hurt. So this was one of my purchases last year from Record Store Day. Against all odds, I just shown this one in Beth's contest video. This one came out in '84. This is a promo copy. That's why it's got this big sticker on it, which basically lists the same tracks that are on the back. Purple Rain was another one that came out in '84. I don't think there was a single girl in 8th grade, which is where I was when this movie came out, who didn't adore this movie and didn't talk about it and didn't watch it incessantly and didn't listen to the music constantly. At the time, I didn't really care for it, but as the years have gone by, I've come to appreciate Prince a lot more, and I really enjoy this record now. And of course, this was another one I've shown recently, Streets of Fire. This one came out in '84 as well. I've already pretty much said everything I was going to say about it. There's really not a whole lot to say at this point anymore, except that this came out in '84 also. Now, we're going to move on to everything. You're getting everything I've got, Eric. So, it's going to be a feast of movie soundtracks. Starting out with a classic, Saturday Night Fever. This is the original copy from my mom when she bought this in 1978. It is beat to shit. It's playable, but it sounds like crap because it's basically worn out. I have the Super Deluxe box set of this soundtrack featuring a remastered vinyl album, plus it came with a Blu-ray of the movie. I think it came with a slip mat for your platter, which I didn't use, and different, I think, pictures and posters. But it was a pretty sweet set. But this one here is the original copy from '78. Roadhouse is another one of my all-time favorite movies. Probably my favorite Patrick Swayze movie, easily. You can't get a movie with more action, more cheesy dialogue, more suspect acting than Roadhouse. The good part is the Jeff Healey Band supplied the majority of the soundtrack to this movie. So for all intents and purposes, this is a Jeff Healey Band album, which makes it a big winner for me. So this has always been one of my very favorite soundtracks and movies, Roadhouse. Showed this one recently again too, Bo Rap, as my kids call it. I think my daughter's watched this like 4 or 5 times now. My kids have become big Queen fans, and this record got played a lot when I bought it recently. I bought this like a month ago, maybe a month or 2 ago. So this has spent a lot of time on the turntable, which is fine with me. You know, I love to encourage them listening to quality music compared to a lot of what's out currently these days. They listen to plenty of that too, but at least I can mix in some of this, and it makes me feel better. Breakfast Club. Another classic 80s movie. Love this movie. Probably my favorite John Hughes movie. I don't agree with the ending to this movie, but I'm not going to sidetrack this video by discussing it. Maybe in a different video I'll talk more about it. But there's so much that's good about this movie that I really loved, and then I thought John Hughes kind of let the air out of it at the end. But that's just me. But I think everybody pretty much knows about this movie and about this soundtrack. It's an 80s classic, The Breakfast Club. Good Morning Vietnam. Another 80s classic movie with Robin Williams. And the cool thing about this soundtrack is that it is made to sound like an actual broadcast, radio broadcast. So you'll get snippets of dialogue from the movie when Robin Williams is working as a DJ. And you get all of these songs from the movie. There's probably a lot of glare, sorry. But the song selection in this is really good. You know, it's basically all 60s classics with some of Robin Williams' dialogue interspersed in between. So, Good Morning Vietnam is a great soundtrack. This is mostly in alphabetical order, too, in case you didn't notice, because The Graduate is next. We're in the G's. I know I showed this one recently, probably a couple months ago. This is a Columbia 2i, but the label is gray instead of red. I don't think I've seen that before. For Columbia 2i, I think the gray label was for classical music. I'm not sure, but for whatever reason, this soundtrack got the gray Columbia 2i. And this is mostly a Simon & Garfunkel record. You know, of course, you have Mrs. Robinson on here. You got Sounds of Silence, Scarborough Fair, you know, plus a lot of background music too, but there's enough of Simon & Garfunkel here to keep you happy. So this is another great one. Original copy from the 60s. Mike's Murder is another one that I think I showed recently. This is, again, for all intents and purposes, a Joe Jackson record because he wrote and recorded all of the music. Never saw the movie, but I'm a big fan of Joe Jackson, especially Joe Jackson in the 80s, so I had to have this, and this is a great record too. Another one of my all-time favorite movies, Pulp Fiction. Soundtrack to this is basically, you know, everything from the movie. You've got, you know, Misery Lou, Jungle Boogie, Let's Stay Together, you know, everything from that you've heard from the movie. Son of a Preacher Man, interspersed with bits of dialogue from the movie. And of course, the new track, which was Urge Overkill's cover of Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. This was among one of my famous estate sale finds. When I bought this, it was sealed, and it was for $1. So I could not resist. Of course, it's no longer sealed, but this is a great movie, a great soundtrack, one for the ages, a prized possession of my collection, a Pulp Fiction soundtrack. U2's Rattle and Hum did a concert film, and this is the album of that concert film. It's a double album, and there's a lot of live cuts in here, along with new studio tracks. Say what you will about U2, but they kind of reached the end of the road with their original sound with this album. So the cracks, I think, were starting to show in U2 with this record. I think they kind of spinning their wheels with this one. I mean, there's still plenty of good songs on here, but for a double album, it didn't do a whole lot for me. But some of the songs on here are just absolutely killer. But it probably would have been a better single album. I could have done without the live cuts. But, you know, if this was just a studio album, I suspect it would have been a lot better. It would have been a lot tighter. But Rattle and Hum from U2's concert film of the same name. Another concert film, Storefront Hitchcock, featuring, of course, one of my all-time favorite artists, Robyn Hitchcock. Yeah, this is basically just him, solo with a guitar, talking a lot in between songs, and singing and performing wonderfully in an actual storefront, which got filmed. This came out in 1998, and this was one of the tougher and more expensive records to find in the Robyn Hitchcock catalog. So I was super thrilled to finally land a copy of this. So I had to include this one, Storefront Hitchcock, by the great Robyn Hitchcock. And then, of course, Superfly. I know my buddy Brian over at Cosmic Vinyl showed this last night. I watched his video, his contest entry video, the first part. This is a reissue, because the original copies, you know, this would fold out where it said Superfly. But I went the reissue route because it was just too hard to find a good condition copy of this record as an original. Reason being, everybody played it because it's such a good record. That's why. So originals are hard to find in nice condition. But I went the reissue route. And, of course, Superfly is another one of the all-time classics. I love this music. I could listen to this all day long and never get sick of it. This next one, actually, there's actually 2 records that were released. Of course, the Woodstock soundtrack, and they ended up doing Woodstock 2. So this is a triple album. This is a double. So we got 5 records covering the Woodstock Festival, of which this year is the 50th anniversary. So probably as we get closer to that date, I'll probably be spinning this. Well, I'll spin both of them. And then I have the 40th anniversary Blu-ray. I'm wondering what they're going to do, if they're going to do any kind of 50th anniversary release, hopefully with some expanded footage that we haven't seen before, because there's plenty of it. I know, because there's so many bands that were in Woodstock that did not make the film. It would be nice to see a lot of those performances, like Johnny Winter, CCR. Who else? There's a bunch of other people that just didn't get into the movie, whether it was through rights issues or, in the case of someone like Neil Young, he just didn't want to be in the movie. But Woodstock and Woodstock 2, some all-time classics in the soundtrack genre. And last but not least, another recent show is The Wrecking Crew. This was another one that I played recently because of there's Hal Blaine, famous drummer, had died earlier this year. So I picked this up a couple of years ago, back when this documentary came out. I found it on eBay for a good price, brand new, so I bought a copy. And it's just basically, you know, it's a soundtrack of the 60s and early 70s. But this is another essential soundtrack in anyone's collection, in my opinion. There you go. That's everything I've got, Eric. Sorry I couldn't come up with a theme, but I figured the volume of records that I showed should hopefully make up for it. Because, of course, I wanted to get into your contest. Wanted to support you and your channel. So I hope it does well for you. I hope you get a bunch more people subscribing and watching. So, with all that said, I'm going to cut it off here. But one other thing I should add, since I've got such a large pile of soundtracks, for the most part, I'm going to put them in a cube, like one of these cubes you see here, like one of the bottom ones. I'm just going to separate them all out and have just a section for soundtracks. Because the main cabinet where I keep most of my records is pretty full, and it's already spilling over into other shelving units. So anytime I can kind of group albums together by either artist or genre is a good thing for me. So this contest helped me do that, so thank you. Okay, yeah, that's going to be it for me. Probably going to try to do another video later, maybe another spin zone. I think I have enough material for that. But for now, I'm going to upload this shortly. Once again, hope you enjoy, Eric. Love you, love your channel. Peace, and I will see everybody later.